My name is Torsten Overgaard. I'm a Danish photographer. I travel the world taking photographs and teaching photography. Today I will talk more about the Leica SL2. I will tell about how did we get to Leica SL2 here from Leica SL here. Today we have the Leica SL2 here, and it's quite a capable camera. It's a new camera system Leica came out with. They just invented it from scratch, you could say, 5 years ago. In 2015, suddenly out of the blue, they came with this camera that you can mount the new L lenses, and you can mount any other Leica lenses like the M lenses, the R lenses, even screw mount lenses, and you can also mount like S lenses, like a cinema lenses, Canon, Nikon, what have you. This is the latest version. It's 47 megapixels. It has 5K video and a lot of other interesting features. But how did we get to this camera? That's the story I want to tell a little bit about. And right here I have, fun enough, the Leica SL is actually called Leicaflex, and it's called Leicaflex SL. This is the camera that Leica came out with in 1964, and this is a film camera. And just listen to this. It says everything. This is the sound of the shutter. This is beautiful. And let me just go 125th of a second, because that is the most sexy camera sound you will ever hear. It sounds like this. Yeah, that's it. This camera is built like a tank. The grandfather of this camera is this Leica M. This is Leica M4. And what happened, very short, the Leica history. I have other videos and articles on my websites about the Leica history. Leica came out with this camera format in 1925. And it was quite genius because it made cameras small and compact and very high quality lenses. And together with the concept of this camera came also in larger. So you could go in the darkroom, you could take this small negative. There was a concept, small negative, big print. So you could take the small negative from this camera, which is 24 times 36 millimeters, and you could go into the darkroom and you could blow it up to large prints, because the film format was apparently good enough at that point, but mainly the lenses were good enough to actually capture details, so you could blow it up. This was a huge success. It changed photography. And if you go back and look in history, you'll see Canon and Nikon and everybody else made cameras that looks exactly like this. Sometimes you can't even tell the difference. But a Leica is a Leica, and the thing with the Leica is that have really good lenses. What happened then was we get to the 60s, 70s, and then suddenly the Japanese camera producers came up with new ideas. And you could say one of the weaknesses, but also one of the charms with this camera is here you look through a viewfinder. It's called a rangefinder system, because you look here through this eye here, and that means it's a little bit different place than the lens. It has very high precision, but you don't exactly know what you see through the lens. So that was one of the things that you could say the Japanese camera manufacturers attacked. They said, we're going to do a SLR camera, single lens reflex. And what is that? Well, in many ways it's the same as this camera, but now you have a mirror system up here. So you look through here and you look down through the mirror here and out through the lens. So when you look through here, you actually see the exact focus of the lens and the frame and everything, and how the depth of field is going to be. And this is a beautiful camera. I use this a lot when I shot lots of portraits and magazines articles and reportages with slide film. I use this camera mainly, and I use the 80mm 1.4 on it. Beautiful camera, beautiful lenses, beautiful everything. And I'll just show here, you can get an idea what is a single lens reflex. If you only been dealing with iPhones and mirrorless cameras, then you see here there's a mirror in here. And as soon as you take the picture, the mirror goes up. And I'll show you what happens other than that the mirror goes up, because if you go here, then there's a film camera. So I'm just going to open here and take out. I know I have an old film in this one. So look, it actually have a real film. And then if I take a picture again here, you see the mirror, and then the mirror goes up, and the shutter in here also goes up, so now you can actually see me through this one, and that is like I'm the film and you're what I'm taking a picture of through a lens, so that's what happens. And then the mirror goes back again, and now I can look through a viewfinder. That's SLR. There was cameras before SLR that would have two eyes, so you would look through one lens and there would be a similar lens addressing the film. Much bigger camera. So this is like, you could say, a new compact thing. So what happened was the Japanese camera producers came out with SLR cameras, and as usual, everybody who is professional or works in the press, they want speed, they want comfort, they want security, that what they take a picture of is going to be the picture. And this is kind of like very charming, but in that context it's a little bit too sloppy, because it could be too artistic or something. You want to make sure that you get the picture. At least that's what you think, so that's why things like this sell. So Leica came up with this as an answer to it. They were way too late in the run. So this was a success, but it wasn't that big of a success. Basically the whole market, you could say, Leica was sitting on the market for cameras until the 60s. Then the Japanese producers came up with cameras and they just swept away Leica, and they came late with the answer. This beautiful camera is still very much worth to get. What happened then was that Leica made like a SL2 and like the SL mod, where you can put on a motor winder, you can rewind the film really quick. And then came R5, and then came R6.2. Leica S6.2 is kind of like the classic, the one that everybody agrees this is an awesome camera, and it is in many ways. I never used it. What I had was I also had R4 that came before those ones, and this is also a beautiful camera. It has like the motor winder, but this is one that Leica made with Minolta in late in the 70s, beginning of the 80s. Leica was forced to find somebody to work with that could help with more economical production, because Leica was handmade and it took a long time and everything was super expensive to do. And they found Minolta, so we'll see this camera exists as a Minolta and a Leica version. And some of the lenses also back then were designed by Minolta and made by Minolta and used on Leicas and vice versa. So they did different stuff together. Not a bad camera. I used this a lot. I took a lot of photos with this. Similar, and all the R lenses, of course, and everything fits on this one. Same thing. Then we move forward. I said R6.2, R7, and then came in 1996. Like I said, okay, that's it. Now we have the M system, we have the M6, and so on, and they're like great cameras. Now we're going to make an SLR that is like the SLR. So they redesigned the whole concept, and you can say this is a very different SLR camera. It's quite a chunk. I mean, it's the same as the SL with the mirror and everything inside. Now it have bit codes for the lenses and everything, so the lens and the camera can communicate. You can put on a really fast motor winder on this one. And this is an awesome camera. You could say it's chunky, but it feels really good. The mechanical perfection of it is amazing and everything. So this one I also used a lot. This is the R8. And then in a few years later, in 2002, Leica came out with the R9, which I also have here, or maybe it's the other way around. This was actually the R9. This is the R8, so they actually came the other way around. It doesn't matter, because they're very similar. So it's almost just an excuse to come out with a slightly improved camera. So it has a few buttons that are different. Generally, I actually prefer the R8. It's more intuitive, but it's very small details. It doesn't really matter. So Leica still believed film cameras that's the thing. So they had film M cameras and film R cameras, and they made the new designed R lenses, and the Leica R lenses have been considered like this is like the most fantastic lenses in the world. The Leica M lenses that goes on this one is also amazing lenses, but there is the thing that smaller lenses require higher precision, and Leica have the higher precision. But the problem with smaller lenses, or you could say not the problem, but the advantage with bigger lenses, that the bigger glass you have, the easier it is to make high quality optics. It's just a physical thing. So that's what they did. They kept making this, and it got really exciting in 2005, because then Leica finally said, okay, maybe this digital thing is not just like an overnight thing, maybe we should take it serious. So what it did was that they made this camera is actually a digital camera now, and I'll just let you hear the sound of it. It sounds like this. And it's kind of odd because it has a digital back. So what Leica came out with was they came out with this camera from this side looks exactly like it has a motor winder. It's exactly the same size and the hand grip and everything. But when you turn it around, it has a digital back. So what you did, and what I did, because I have two of those, is that you got a box with a new digital back and a bottom here, and you would just take off the film back of the camera and put on the digital and screw on the box on the bottom. And then of course it has batteries and everything, and it have a lot of electronics and stuff. And now you have a 10 megapixel digital camera with the CCD sensor. And this camera, the sensor, even is very slow, and there's many things I could say about it. One of the things is that it's really hard to get the batteries because it's special batteries, so you have to send them in for repair in a special third-party place and all this. But the image quality of this is going to blow your socks off. It's fantastic, it's 10 megapixel, but it's so crisp and clear, it's almost unbelievable. And that sensor technology was made with Leica, together with Kodak, that knows everything about color film and colors, and with Imacon in Copenhagen. And Imacon in Copenhagen was, back then, the company that did all the high-end scanners. So if you wanted to scan your slide film or originals for a museum, you would get an Imacon scanner. And they together, Kodak, Imacon and Leica, made this design of the digital back. Then what happened is that Leica made 3,000 of these approximately. Then Imacon was sold to Hasselblad in Sweden. And Hasselblad didn't like that Imacon was also working for Leica, so they had to stop that, and that means that there was no more digital backs. So that was a little bit of a bummer. Then you could say, then what happened very quickly was that Leica came out with the Leica M8. That was the first digital M camera like this model, but with a crop sensor. And it was a little bit of a confusing time because Leica was being bought up by the Kaufman family, and they weren't doing that well because everything was changing, you know. So what happened then was that they came out with M8 with crop digital sensor, and a lot of people were happy, but it didn't really make the day. And then what happened in 2009 was that Leica came out with M9. It was the first full frame Leica M sensor. And that was a huge success, and it turned around, you could say, the whole Leica world, the whole factory. A lot of people were happy that now they could get a real Leica with a real digital sensor, and that was a CCD sensor. The year after, in 2010, because a lot of people were still waiting for Leica to come with a replacement for this digital back that they stopped producing in 2008. And Leica said, we were working on something. But in 2010, it's okay. We realized we're not going to do any more R lenses. We're stopping production of R lenses. We'll sell anything we have in stock, and anything is like, that's fine, you can buy that. You can buy all the cameras, but we're not going to make a new, there's not going to be a R10 digital Leica. And like I said, in the same breath, they said, okay, we will make some solution in the future. And you could say in 2013, they came with a Leica M. Again, that was the Leica M240 with 24 megapixel sensor and live view, so you could actually see through the lens, like you would see what the sensor sees through the lens, and you could put on all the R lenses with adapters and so on. It wasn't not exactly what you had wanted, so you could say, like, if you're out doing safari or bird photography with long tail lenses, then you have this little M240. It's not the same as having this real camera. So you could say it worked, but it wasn't satisfactory for all the people who had stacked up lots of very expensive R lenses, perfect R lenses. They still were a little bit unhappy with it. And then came the Leica M10, and that was great. It was just better M camera, still full frame and so on, now with CMOS sensor. And then suddenly out of the blue, more or less, came in 2015, came the Leica SL. The Leica SL looks exactly like this. This is just the SL2. The Leica SL is actually the one recording this video, because both the SL and the SL2 have amazing sensor for video. And this is kind of like Leica came up with a whole package. Okay, we got this idea, we're going to make a camera that's actually a semi-pro camera in full frame, because they already made the Leica S that was medium format and very perfect, and a lot of the things in the SL is actually what technology they took for the Leica S medium format that cost a fortune to make. That they said, okay, the processor, a lot of the technology, we can just downgrade it to, or downsize it to a Leica SL, and that's what they did. And this camera, you can put on an adapter. This is an M lens, a 21mm Summilux. You can put on all the precious R lenses, and you have a fairly good grip on it, and it's a nice camera. You can even get a hand grip to put here, so you can really grip on it. And of course it works on tripods and all this stuff. And it can also do video. The Leica SL can do 4K, the Leica SL2 can do 5K. So this is an amazing camera, and it also has this feature that it doesn't have a mirror. So you could say this is a SLR, this is a SL, so that makes sense. This is single lens reflex, this is single lens, but no reflex, there's no mirror. What you see here is the sensor. And one of the secrets of the SL system is that it has this size of bayonet. And this size of bayonet is something that, and also the distance from here to the sensor, is something that the chief lens designer at Leica, Peter Karpe, had figured out long and lonely nights and everything. He's been sitting and calculating, okay, if we make a bayonet this diameter and the size, not bigger, not smaller, then we can actually make any type of lens we could ever want in the future. We can make 800mm and 600mm tail lenses, we can make zooms, we can make 8mm wide angle. Anything is possible with this. And we can mount all the old screw mount lenses, the M lenses, the R lenses, Nikon, Hasselblad, Leica S. Anything can be put on this camera. So it's almost like, the first time I saw this one, I thought it's just like almost like just a box with a sensor, and you can put on any lens on it. And that's kind of how it works. I mean, it's much more nicer than just a plate, but that is what you can do. You can put on anything on it. And the simplicity, you can say the Leica SL was great. The Leica SL2 is even greater, because here Leica have implemented some of the simplicity from the M system, which is just 3 buttons, a very simple touchscreen menu. Fantastic optics here, so you can really see a crisp view of the digital screen in here, because it's a digital viewfinder. So it has a lot of Leica qualities, like very high quality, very high build quality, and also the simplicity that you want in a camera like this. So that's basically how we came from the SL to the SL in something like 40 years. And Leica, I should say, also nailed it so well with the SL2 or the Leica SL. So they came out in 2015, and you saw that in 2017-18 came out Canon with the Canon R system, Nikon with the Z system or C system, and that is exactly, and other brands also came out with, like, kind of reinvented the SLR system, but without the mirror. And that's basically based on this idea that Leica came up with, that no, we're going to make a new camera that is not SLR, and it's a whole new system, and this time we're going to design it so it's prepared for the future. So if we put on 100 megapixel or 200 megapixel or 500 megapixel sensor, we can still fit all the lenses, and it's all going to work. And I do have on my website, there's 2 articles where I interview lens designer Peter Karpe about the philosophy of this, both the lens designers, the L lenses that came with the camera, but also the whole idea of sensor and resolution of lenses. That's basically all I had to tell you about today. I hope you enjoyed this sweet little story. You can make comments below the video here. You can also see that below here there's a link to a special offer on the Leica SL2 that I made with a dealer, Ken Hansen, in New York. They ship worldwide, but you basically get a Leica SL for the price of an SL, but you get an extra battery, and you get one of my masterclass workshops with it. So that's a good deal. You can find that below the video also. And also below the video there's a link to my website where you can go get a free ebook and sign up for my newsletter. So I hope you do all of that, and I hope you enjoyed this, and till I see you next time, remember always to wear a camera.